which get locked into our neural pathways of our brain that are repeated over and over through our various stages of development. It doesn't go away without effort. The source of resistance to spiritual endeavor is the narcissistic core of the ego. Ego claims sovereignty and authorship of one's existence, of the decisions you make, and all of your behaviors, including all your thoughts, all your emotions, and all your actions. It's willful, and it desires personal gain and control over others. It is vain, greedy, hateful, prideful, envious, deceitful, manipulative, and so much more. And it tends to substitute thoughts and emotions for reality and justifies everything it does or doesn't do.
And we're so attached to it all. You actually taught at the last seminar, one of the things I noted was we justify the torture for the lifestyle.
Exactly. Exactly. It'll justify everything.
So you also rolled out that it is not enough to know spiritual truth. And this all sounds so encompassing. How does one tell if they're operating from that ego place or from a higher perspective?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because even in the higher realms we have ego. So one of the easier means of discerning is in behavior. Listen to the languaging. Ego says, it's all about me. The language of ego is full of I, me, my, mine. It's possessive. Look at the behaviors of superiority. Sport hunting or killing for sport. War, conflict, anger, making money for the sake of personal gain and control at the expense of others. The narcissistic core of the ego is a megalomaniac that is 100% about the self. Ego demands certain rights to be imposed on others. Ego's narcissism, it's all about me, leads to prejudicial positionalities that easily converts to nationalism, racism, sexism, religionism, including our tendency now to start profiling citizens in our little country here.
I think this is all that is on TV these days.
Basically.
I've actually heard you say, and I kind of always refer to it as Kurt's slogan, because I find myself teaching it, of course, in my own psychotherapeutic practices. All things start with self. All things start with self. How is that different from the narcissistic core of the ego?
Again, this is a problem of languaging. When we discuss all things start with the self, we are saying that one's level of consciousness creates perception, and depending on one's level, it will determine one's perspective of life and life's experiences. When we discuss the narcissistic core of the ego, it has determined that there is only survival of the self, and all else is for that purpose, thereby justifying and rationalizing anything they do for their own aggrandizement or personal gain. Once basic survival is attained, then it upgrades to issues of identity and winning at the expense of others.
Okay.
From an egoic point of view, only the outcome counts. From a spiritual point of view, only the effort counts, and the outcome unfolds as a result of the effort. When one focuses on the determined level of let me say that differently. When one focuses on the effort, that determines the level of richness of the journey.
Say it one more time.
When we focus on the effort.
Devotion.
Intention, attention. This will then determine the level of richness of the journey.
Okay.
If we only focus on the outcome, we miss the journey. We're all about it, and as a result, we will sacrifice any number of things in order to get to the outcome we've already established. These are positionalities, and all positionalities are of varying degrees of the ego as expressed through one's level of consciousness. Spiritually, we learn to lean in to the experience before us. And when we're faced with the experiences of life, the ego often complains and laments.
Yes.
Why me?
Oh, no, yes.
Oh,
yes.
why me? All that is a tantrum of the narcissistic core of the ego. Why not you? Yet the experience is already here. Lamenting doesn't change the experience. It's already here. Lean into the experience. Learn what you can. All things are for your benefit. All things. So choose your attitude. One might be, I can't wait to see what the universe is about to unfold for me. One can only do this by living in the moment.
So it gets to be me. It gets to be me. Not why me. It gets to be me.
Exactly. How you focus on it determines how you're going to experience what's before you.
So I'm realizing that we're now discussing spiritual perspectives and the practice of walking through life.
Yes. How we orient to life determines the quality of that life, including the degree of suffering that we experience. Krishna, the Buddha, Jesus, Hawkins, and others have taught this truth. Suffering is due to one's state of mind. And this is also foundational in psychology.
I love that.
As one progresses in transformation, there comes a time when, as Dr. Hawkins states, we live life like a prayer. As one progresses further, then living life is the prayer.
Wow.
There comes a time in one's development that formal thought is no longer necessary to remain in alignment with truth. Living truth becomes the experience of life.
For listeners, just can you define formal thought? That's kind of what do you mean by formal thought?
Well, it's that prattling in your head that you think is so important. And all that really is the ego. The higher one's state of consciousness, the less thinking is occurring. The mind quiets. There are periods of silence that are ever increasing to a point that eventually all there is the silence, that which is God.
Okay. That which is God. Okay.
So
that which is consciousness, pure consciousness.
Exactly. So enlightened beings are enveloped in the loving nature of universal consciousness, otherwise known as God. It is the experience that one is an aspect of God, just as a cell is an aspect of being the human you. Effort is no longer required, as living and being are one and the same.
As it is within, so it is without.
Exactly.
Okay. In the last seminar, so kind of reviewing again, you presented the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz as a spiritual practice. You've also taught that there's a process to be repeated over and over and over. We are introduced to a new idea of concept or a concept, and out of interest we seek knowing about that new information, followed by then putting such knowledge into our life as a practice over and over and over again until finally it becomes part of our nature. That's the idea, right?
Exactly. We talk about a path, and that path now is ever increasing levels of alignment with truth. So as we look at the enlightened nature, it's already within. It's already within each of us. It's not like it doesn't exist and we're trying to attain something outside of us. Remember, Jesus reminded us that the kingdom of heaven is within. It's already there. The process of psychological healing and spiritual practice, practice is a process of removing debris from the perception of truth known as enlightenment. We're moving the debris of the psychological wounds that distort our view of reality. Putting the Four Agreements into our daily life will transform one's life. Don Miguel Ruiz is also an enlightened teacher.
I love that idea of removing debris. I actually talk a lot to people about we're scraping off barnacles.
Yes.
They've kind of grown and attached on you and you didn't even realize it, and it covers it all up.
And it obscures the truth.
So yeah, I get it. All teachers and teachings can be understood based on their level of consciousness. Consciousness then is this developed transformative process that transcends the our egoic perspectives, increasingly then aligning with universal truth, the result of which is the experience of enlightenment. And then because of the distortions based in ego's experience and perspective, this requires knowledge put into practice, ultimately then leading to becoming that which we practice. Then, as we transform into the next level, we start the process of growth and development over, with each acceptance of truth leading to increased freedom. Oh, wow! Wow, yeah.
That's the path. That's the the transformative path. If you stay on the path and you apply spiritual principles to your life, you will change. You can't help but change.
Yes.
So, yes, you get it. And that summary was perfect. Dr. Hawkins, of course, had so much more to share in this regard as well. And he often extols us to put into practice any number of spiritual wisdom practices, putting the practice into our daily life. And let me just share a few. These are just really short.
Very cool, very cool.
Number one, avoid the unhealthy. I mean, how tough was that one?
Yeah.
Anything that we're doing to excess is going to be unhealthy and either extreme, and that will make you go weak. And in the opposite direction, then pursue that which makes you feel strong, or said differently, that which is healthy. Wow, that wasn't too tough.
Yeah.
And that's healthy body, mind, and spirit. 2, choose to be easygoing. Choose it. Be benign. Be forgiving, compassionate, and unconditionally loving towards all of life in all of its forms and expressions, without exception, including yourself. Focus on selfless service, giving of love, consideration, and respect to all creatures. Here's the third one. Avoid negativity and the desire for worldliness and its greed for pleasure and possessions. Forgo opinionating, the judgment of right and wrong, and the vanity of being right in the trap of righteousness. Here's another. Seek to understand rather than condemn. That sounds like Don Miguel, doesn't it?
Yes.
Apply these principles to one's life view regarding self and others. Trust in love, mercy, infinite wisdom, and compassion of divinity, which sees through all human error, limitation, and frailties. The only sin is ignorance. Or try this last one. Trust the love of God, which is forgiving. Remember, condemnation and fear of judgment stem from the ego. Like the sun, the love of God shines equally on all. There is no specialness.
So, okay. Wow, I had just a whole bunch of thoughts go off on my head on all of those. It'd be so fun to just take each one and dialogue down further. But let's transition to the upcoming seminar. It just seems that we could keep going for hours. Maybe we need to consider expanding our time on air, Kurt. What do you think?
Well, I think a lot, but anyway, the next seminar is titled Alignment and Maximizing the Self. And that alignment is alignment with truth. Jiddu Krishnamurti, also an enlightened teacher of the 20th century, asked a profound question. And it goes something like this. Can you look at what is truth without prejudice? When we are faced with truth, it resonates within us. Remember, it's already there. We already know the truth. But when faced with truth, it challenges all of those belief systems we've been taught, every single one of them. Remember, Krishnamurti also said, truth is a pathless land. Translated, or said differently, there is no authority. There is the application of and the experience of truth. Truth sets one free,